Learning is the key to successful investing, and who doesn't want to invest in some way?
Here at L.E.A.R.N Grow Invest, we focus on financial education, all with the aim of sharing our knowledge on personal finance, investing, and building wealth. We do this on the foundation of our faith in God.
If a more holistic approach is what you need, check out our Grow Faith-Based Financial Coaching Program.
Find out more about us at learngrowinvestclub.com
and follow us on all social media platforms at Learn, Grow, Invest.
All right, everyone, good evening. Hope everybody is doing well. I know Sean has been waiting for this video, almost not sure if I want to do it because I kind of see Sean's brain already just, picking at every word. But I wanted to talk about Dolphin Cove, right? So took a little break for a couple of days, of course, family vacation, and so I'm back. I'm not sure if I'm rested, but we'll see how that goes. But at Dolphin Cove, I've been thinking about it a lot, and it's a company that we've spoken about quite a few times this year, and I thought with recent events, I would just kind of put everything into perspective, because I think there are some lessons here that I've learned and that I thought that I want to share with others as well. And we'll see where it goes, right? Now let's talk about Dolphin Cove a little bit to recap how things have gone. So I'm gonna talk about Dolphin Cove in kind of two phases, right? So there is, I'm gonna say, pre-bankruptcy announcement and post-bankruptcy announcement, right? So before this year, right, Dolphin Cove was one of those companies that was in an industry that not many people, it wasn't a company that a lot of people really spoke about, right? But it was a company that's always been there. And it came up on my radar probably 2021 or 2020, I think, when Chike and I first started talking about it, right? Because Chike did his analysis, and Chike, he has these things that he looks for. We did an earlier video on it back in 2021, I believe, where he did. He shows you the things that he goes through for a company to appear on his radar. And at the time, I think the stock was trading at maybe $8 or $9, and he was saying that he thought it was a good company to look into. And then I remember it was right before the pandemic, and then even after the pandemic, he was saying that he sees some opportunity there. When everything shifted for me in terms of looking at dividend companies, because back in 2022, when I saw that the pandemic had us in a certain state, I started to look specifically at dividend-paying companies because I thought they presented the best opportunities for both, right? In the sense that when you get a dividend, then you get cash, you keep your shares, and then also investors may provide you with an opportunity to get some capital gains as well. I'll talk about that another time, right? So they came up on my radar. They've been paying consistent dividend starting, I'd say, from about 2022 August was, I think, when I first became a shareholder. Sometime around 2022. And it was a friend of mine who brought them back to memory because, as I said, Chike and I spoke about them. And then a good friend of mine said, look into Dolphin Cove, right? And so that was about August. So I think I was a shareholder from August 2022, right? And then, of course, you're seeing here from then we started seeing a consistent dividend, or at least every 3 months. There's a 6-month break here, but for 2023, 2024, consistent dividends at least, right? And then now, when we got to this point last year for 2024, if you look at the last 4 dividend payments, that was $2.40, right? $12.20 here, $1.20 here. So their last 4 dividend payments over, this was maybe a 9-month period, gave them a massive yield, right? It was over 10% at the time based on what the current price was. Even when it was $23, $24, paying a $2.40 yield meant, 10%. And so, of course, it made it even more attractive for a dividend investor such as myself, right? And so, of course, this being their last dividend announcement, of course, dividends aren't guaranteed. I said, okay, well, burial happened. Some impact there naturally. We saw I think their Q3 last year. Yeah, the third quarter last year. When I looked at it, I said to myself, well, maybe there's going to be a delay into the dividend for that quarter, because I believe the numbers were down year over year here, right? So when I looked at the report last year for the Q3, you saw 2.3 million US for the period, but the previous year they would have done 3.6. So that would have been almost a 30% drop in revenues. But of course, in my mind, again, I'm saying, it's burial related. And so, maybe this is going to impact at least the dividend announcement for the rest of the year. That's what I said to myself. At least I said I would wait for the final year's numbers, and then see what things look like. Because if they made 2 million for the 9 months here, and they would have made 3 million for the entire year for 2023, and they would have paid that dividend 23-24. In my mind, if they finished the year around the 3 million mark, or 2.5, 2.8 thereabout, they may still be able to pay at least an interim dividend for Q1 2025, which is where we are now. So I saw that. No, this was November, right? So I went into 2025 being relatively bullish on Dolphin Cove. And so then, heard nothing in December, nothing in January. And then February 25th was when we saw this. Well, it was actually before this, right? It was from right here, right? So February 25th is when it was posted on the JSE, but February 19th, I think it was when the news started to circulate about it. And this brings me to the first lesson, right? The first lesson is that notice, right? November was the last report, and there was at least a symptom or a sign that for what this stock was supposed to be for me, which was a dividend stock, the first sign was the report, right? The report in terms of that decreased profitability was I'd say at least a yellow flag, maybe not a red flag, but a yellow flag, right? Because that alone could potentially compromise the dividend that I'm looking forward to receiving from this company. So the first lesson is that you have to look at the signs for a company if you're investing in them for dividends is what I would say. Now, when you're investing for dividends, it's different from investing for capital gains, in a sense that what dividend investors are looking for is consistency. So it's not like with capital gains where you're wrong about a thesis, the stock may go down in the short term, you double down and then you bounce back. With dividend, you're looking at income and consistent income, right? So that was the first thing. I didn't look at the first clue or yellow flag, so to speak. The next clue was the of course what happened here in February, right? This is clue number 2, and this is where Sean and I had our thing, right? So when I saw this, again, thinking of what this would have meant. No, I still thought at least, and it's yet to be seen, right? All some of the things I'm going to say here, I still don't know what the future will hold for the company. I do have some theories. I'll talk about maybe one or two of them. But this sign here, right, the bankruptcy announcement for the parent company here would have been the second thing that should have, hinted to me in terms of impact for dividends, right? Because again, looking at the company as a dividend paying company, this presented something that so this is how I saw this, right? I saw this announcement as being, well, one, an opportunity in the sense that if it is that they're able to separate from the parent company, maybe they purchase back the shares, change owners, maybe the parent company sells their shares and they're able to now have that separation, not be affiliated, and then just continue their profitable operations and so on and so forth. What I did not fully appreciate at the time is the length of time that will take to resolve. I do still think it's a possibility for separation, especially in light of the whole thing that was released recently about the directorship of Stafford, right? That kind of signals to me that there's going to either be some separation, and it may not be mutual in that sense, meaning this is certainly something that is very concerning as an investor, to see there is this kind of conflict that spills over to social media. When it spills over to social media, it tells you that it's been there for a while, it's been pent up, and persons feel like they have no choice now but to kind of go external with it. It's actually, I think, a bad signal or sign in terms of leadership, right? Because this is coming from the board, right? This is speaking to the leadership of the company. This is speaking to how they're able to manage things. Now, I do believe that conflict happens. Conflict is an opportunity for companies to get better, to get stronger. But the lack of communication at times leaves room for kind of seeds to be planted in terms of investors' minds, and it may cause just more uncertainty than is necessary, which doesn't bode well for the sentiment factor, which drives at times a lot of the activity and growth of a company, because sentiment can propel a company faster in terms of price growth, and then when you combine that with fundamentals or other positive milestones for the company, then everything can work out great. But that second point of the bankruptcy being a threat to dividends, certainly something that I didn't fully appreciate at the time, right? So that's number two. The third thing that is driving me crazy right now is the very first time there was an announcement from February 28th. Now, that's 31 days, 24, almost 60 days. We've been seeing announcement of the delays of their audited financial statements. Now, because of this is now not even a yellow flag anymore. This is red flag territory, right? Their audited financials must be further delayed pending the receipt of updates on the status of insolvency proceedings involving its direct, intermediate, and ultimate parent companies, and any significant impact this could have on the company's operations or financial position. Now, if it is being delayed because of that, and there's still lack of clarity around what's happening with the parent company. Now, I understand here from Dolphin Cove's perspective that they can't rush it. They can't, speed up the process. They may not have any control or impact on it. But what this puts them at risk for is a possible suspension, right? Because there's a window for which they need to present these financials. If they don't present it within that window, I don't remember what the window is, but they're at risk of being suspended. And we've seen companies that have been suspended, when they come out of suspension, trading doesn't go too well, right? So this is certainly a red flag, in a sense that they're currently out of compliance in terms of it being delayed. And if they pass the deadline or whatever grace period that JSE gives them, they're going to be at risk of suspension, right? So that's the third thing here. And so having this company in my portfolio as a dividend stock, these things certainly are not giving me any form of comfort. And so the last thing that I'll point to here, before I share, what I think may happen going forward, is if you look at how it's been traded now, I do stand on this. And you guys know that I speak about these things openly. Volatility is your friend in terms of investing. If there is no volatility, then there is no capital appreciation, right? It's never a straight line up or a straight line down. But of course, you can look to see how a company is trading to see when sentiment has possibly shifted, when persons are at a place of uncertainty. And what happens, and I find this in our market especially, that when sentiment starts to turn and it remains in that turned state for an extended period, even when things get better, investors are scared. Investors are turned away from the company, and it doesn't even matter what they do in the future that's good. It will impact how things go. Now, this is still separate from dividends, in the sense that even if the company has poor sentiment or decreasing or depreciating sentiment, if they're profitable, if they're able to, dividends will still flow. But it is now to the point where their dividends have gone into the territory of being inconsistent, right? So they would have announced twice in 2022, twice in 2023. Well, no, 3 times in 2023, twice in 2024. We're at the 5-month mark, about to be for 2025, and no announcement, no sign of the annual report, the audited report. And because of now the leadership challenges, we don't know what impact that will have. We don't know how things will get done, how amicable the board and the parent company will be, what that means for how the parent company may demand in terms of things from them. Like there's so many things that can be unfolded out of that, because if the parent company doesn't have faith in the leadership here, it can impact things a great deal, right? So a lot of things that are now called into question for the company. And it is unfortunate. It is unfortunate. There is one glaring thing, though, that for me was never an issue. But Renee and I actually didn't agree on this stock, in the sense that Renee loves animals, wildlife. She watched this movie a couple of years ago about I think SeaWorld and animals in captivity. And so for her, it was never an option for her. Now, it wasn't a strong disagreement, because if we have a strong disagreement, then we would clearly not purchase. But she was like, she wasn't really interested. And so that was one thing that kind of stayed there at the back of my mind, to say that we weren't necessarily on the same page about the company as well, which of course, when you invest as husband and wife as we do, that's something to consider. So that's everything, right? What I would love to see, I'll say that, because I think, so we're talking about my thesis, right? So my thesis now is that they clearly have internal challenges in terms of leadership with the board and the parent company. They certainly have an impact in terms of compliance based on the bankruptcy proceedings, because we don't know when, if, or how soon they'll be able to get clarity, which will be able to have them report on their audited numbers, which will be able to have them meet the JSE requirement. So we don't know if a suspension will be there in the short term for them. So it's, my thesis is that they're headed, well, they've been through turbulence already, and it could remain for a while until those two things are resolved. So the board level, leadership level, that would need to be resolved, because in the article or the report that was shared, there was an issue in terms of how leadership in terms of the board was relating to staff, relating to employees. That needs to be addressed, right? Because that can impact employee morale. And then there's a bankruptcy side where we don't know if and how that is going to be resolved, right? So should investors be worried or concerned? I think it just depends on your timeline. Now, I do think that both issues will eventually be resolved. It's just a matter of time. In terms of the bankruptcy, that could take a while. It's been 2 months since we've heard about it, but when you check the articles outside of Jamaica that are not in English, by the way, you see kind of issues that have gone back a couple of months, if not years, for the parent company. And in terms of the leadership, that is something that is actually a little bit harder to resolve, right? I've seen where persons just kind of are known to have a certain approach or attitude, and persons just kind of take it or leave it. I've seen that in some companies. Now, I don't know them enough in terms of the leadership to say what will happen there. But if things remain the same and employee morale becomes impacted, low employee morale or declining employee morale is going to impact service to clients. Service to clients not being optimal will impact revenues. The bankruptcy proceedings will also impact potential revenues and earning potential for the client, for the client. And so just things that are there to just get addressed. So I think that both will be, though. It's just not clear how soon. The AGM is going to be important. The annual report is going to be important. The audited numbers are going to be important. So I would say, as an investor, if you are a shareholder in the company, you want to look, carefully for those things. Depending on your purchase price, you should also be considering if you're going to be averaging down. That's a personal decision, right? You have to decide if you want to average down. You have to decide if you want to take your losses, if you're in loss and go. Because there is going to be some uncertainty for a while until those two things are resolved, right? That's a very long kind of preamble. So let me know if you have any questions, and I'll try my best to answer them. But that's my current thoughts on Dolphin Cove, that there are too many signs to ignore now in terms of just things that are there. And the more I thought about it in terms of, because for me, it was specifically a dividend stock. And if it's not fulfilling that purpose for a dividend stock, then I have to go where the yields or the returns will be from an income perspective, right? So Sean is saying it's a heartbreaking story, bought a lot last year, hoping to collect some good dividends this year, only for this to happen, right? So and that's a lesson as well, right? When you invest for dividends, you're really taking historical information and hoping that the future will be the same as the past in terms of consistent dividends, and you don't know, right? Now, on one hand, if the fundamentals were the same and the price was going down, the yield would have increased, and so that would be a good thing for a dividend stock. But for a dividend stock not to announce a dividend in 9 months, that is concerning. Can it still be considered a dividend stock? I don't know, right? Sean is saying, I'm happy I got to sell when it rallied. Stephen is saying, I may just have to sell at a loss. Oh, yeah, so this is actually one of my favorite shirts, actually. I can't use the platform, unfortunately, but I went to a conference and I spoke to them, got the shirt, got the cap as well. I can't find the cap, and I got some stickers as well. So yeah, it's one of my favorite shirts to wear. Shanice says, so disappointing. Humble Boss said, suspension is next. Kayla Moore is saying sleep. Oh, I mean, you can always sleep tomorrow. I don't have Dolphin Cove in my portfolio. Good old dividend days, boy. Yeah. Spence says, glad I sold when I did. So says you bring down the price, Spence. You're the one who sold. This is one for the history. Right. Raquel says so. So thank you, Raquel, for starting us off. So I mean, yeah, so Stephen, I think that, so I think for me, being transparent with my community is important. And I know that, no, this is not something that I fully feel comfortable with, but I do know that there are some persons who take a shorthand and say, well, Jermaine is talking about a company, let me look at it, or they may be thinking about it more because I'm talking about it. And so I feel a sense of responsibility to just share what my current thoughts are, just for completeness. I still stand by 100% that you make your own investment decision and be aware of any biases, right? We're all biased in some way, shape, or form. I am biased to the things that I like, the things that I don't like. And so I think I wanted to do this video for those persons who may just have a blind interest without necessarily, thinking about all the considerations. And so yeah, I just have to do that for completeness. But I hope that and I do believe this, Sean, right? So there is those two things though need to be clarified, the sooner the better, because we've seen, as I said, companies that when the sentiment turns for investors, even when the company returns to a good state, they may not be interested anymore, right? And if they're not interested anymore, then there could be fewer opportunities, or the company now has to invest more capital in trying to change that sentiment, right? My apprehension with including Dolphin Cove from earlier this year was just the news about the parent company, call it gut feel. Well, I mean, to me, being an entrepreneur, and I'll say this, my perspective was this. I don't have a business the size of Dolphin Cove, right? Doing millions of US in profits, but I've had companies that were at the point of no return, right? At the brink of, being in operation, things looked really grim, and you find some way. And again, we know we can think of at least one junior market company that everybody wrote off, and it's still listed. It's still surviving, right? And so it's really challenging for a company to die in that sense, meaning there's always once I continue to be in operation, things can turn, tides can turn, I think that's it, the perfect phrase to use there, right? So I think they will bounce back. Now it's just for them to act as quickly as possible, be as transparent as possible, and they're not really known to communicate. That's also a concern that I have, but it's kind of commonplace with our market in general, right? Communication isn't always there, right? So it's not like that separated them from others. A lot of companies don't really communicate in that way. But certainly when there's a challenge, you should be communicating more, right? Hey David. Yeah, so I do believe that a comeback is there. We're just not sure when, right? So yeah, let me know if there are any questions, everyone. I'm going live in the community group tomorrow. We have our community meeting tomorrow, so let me share that before I sign off. We are going live tomorrow. We go to the meetups tab. We have our April community meetup. I need to update this image, right? But our community meetup is tomorrow. If you have questions, post it in the Q&A channel in the group. This community is free to join. You can join us at any time. And so I'll share some more tomorrow about some of the other things I'm looking at. And okay, Tavares, I see your question. I think about 5 in a second, right? So, and then we of course we have the challenge monthly call on Saturday, right? So that's Saturday, our monthly call, and we have a lot to talk about this month as usual. So I hope to see you there, right? What time tomorrow? Let me see. I think it's 8. I see it at 7 p.m. But I may go live on YouTube first, so between 7:30 and 8 is when we'll probably start. But if I don't go live, then we start at 7, right? Yeah, somebody was reminding me about this, but I never saw this notice, and I never even remembered about that. So yeah. Yes, absolutely. Which is why I'm waiting for that, because that will tell me the state of their finances, which will tell me if a dividend is likely or not. But I do believe if they made similar profits to 2023, then a dividend is likely to be announced. We just don't know how well it will be. Now, it could be that report comes out, profits are good, and then they say, hey, here's a $1 dividend. That would certainly send the price back up, considerably, right? There was also the tourism concern, because I believe the numbers are down for the year, right? Yeah, so that was concerning when I saw it as well. All right, Tavares, I'll try and answer this before I end the stream. 5 companies that I like. Now, I do like RPL. I think their Q1 that's coming up is going to be amazing. Because this is when all of the current stations are operating for a full quarter. So I'm thinking that it's just going to be really good. So RPL is certainly at the top of that list. And I'm not a shareholder, unfortunately, because we do work for the company, right? So I think that'd be a conflict there, because we have the benefit of working with them to support them for their reports and their AGMs, etc. And so I don't want to fall to the temptation to do something based on knowledge that I may have that's not public. And so, we took the decision as a company not to invest in the companies that we work with on an ongoing basis. So if we work with a company each quarter, then we don't trade that company for transparency and integrity, right? Because I don't ever want a company to think that we are impacting or influencing their stock price in any way. And so there's that. But RPL, I certainly think they're gonna have a great Q1 2025. And so there's that one. 5 companies that I like. See, it's always hard to think of junior market companies specifically. I need to see the junior market list. Hold on, let me think about it. I do like. Let me just go to J Trader. That will help me. So that's RPL at the top of the list. Humble boss, what's the matter, sir? I can't remember my password as usual. Hope I'm not sharing my screen. Okay. So you need 4 more, right? Right, Tavares? I'll give you 3. I think that last price. I do like. I'm not mentioning that one yet. Man, that's a hard one. It's a hard one. It's a hard one to find 5. It's hard to find 5. It's hard to find 5. But I will say, if I had to choose 5, right? I think Nuts for the Express is interesting. That's the second one I'd say. Nuts for the Express. Yeah, Nuts for the Express. I need a reason, right? So some gonna come back. Oh no, I mean, ah boy. So I was going to say Fesco, guys, but because traditionally I don't like to pick multiple companies from one sector. I think for just diversity. But Fesco, solid company, great strategy. Clearly is able to grow. I like Blue Power as well. I think based on what I would have heard from them at the earnings call they did with us in terms of just their focus on growing the business, I think we saw where they're gonna have some. I understood the business a lot more after I did that earnings call, and so it's certainly a company that I think is worth a watch. So that's 3, right? RPL, Nuts for the Express, Blue Power. Well, so here's the thing. I'll stop it at 3. Because we're talking about being contextual, right? So as at this point, so tropical for me, I need to see the APO prospectus. I need to see that because that for me is gonna impact a lot for me, because I need to see how many shares are gonna be in circulation after the offer, and I need to see what that will look like for their EPS, because that will help me to understand what the dividend will look like, and specifically what the EPS growth will look like going forward, right? So tropical, I'm waiting for that, right? So that's what I'd say. Fontana, I'm still not sure, right? Because I know Fontana has gone up recently, but I just can't shake the fact that they're going to me in the opposite direction. I know I keep coming back to that, but to me they're increasing their overhead costs, and I don't know if that's a recipe for increasing profitability. Because even if, so let's say they did the Fenty launch and it's great, and they have other brands and it's great, I still think persons are going to be leaning towards purchasing online more than in person. So unless there's another pandemic, I don't see that business growing aggressively enough unless they're able to, for example, get great economies of scale, which might be the case as they have 5 more locations now with the Monarch acquisition. So I would need to see that for Fontana for me. So I wouldn't say I like it yet, because I'd want to see that. Okay, yes, but last time isn't junior market, so that's why I didn't mention them. But last time for sure for me, if we're talking main market, I don't know about Spurtree, I don't know. I'm waiting for their AGM to see. Um, yeah, man, Tavares, but it's cool. I mean, I don't mind a question. It causes me to think and to just think about it. Do you think the market is broke because why we're not seeing any stock halting up? I understand all the value companies are good. No, I don't think the market is broke at all. Everybody is richer today because of the dividends that they got. Because we're all Jamaica shareholders, I'm sure. So the market isn't broke, but investors need a reason to be bullish about companies. I think that's fair. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Um, mm, David, the lab, I don't know. I don't know for me. Not yet anyway. 1GS, I still don't know, Sean. I don't know, is what I would say. Why wouldn't they be happy? Unbothered Chico. Why would 1GS shareholders not be happy? So yeah, I think, well, I believe they are. I mean, they did an interview on taking stock when they did the acquisition. I mean, yeah. So I would say I don't remember when their AGM is coming up. I think it's maybe August. I think their AGM is 3 months away. I think their annual report could be coming out soon. So you'll certainly hear from them at their AGM. What? When did it get to 32 cents? Hold on. When did that happen? Oh, wow. I never saw that. Oh, wow. I never saw that, Sean. I never saw that. That was on the 17th. I never saw that. I mean, 1 million units. So one of the things I look at, of course, is the buy side, right? The number of orders to buy. I mean, and things can change, right? Things can change at any minute, right? But that, one second. Yeah, I need to end the stream soon. Yeah. I never saw that. One great studio. 1GS has been trending down for over a year now, same as Image Plus. No, I mean, so Image Plus I didn't mention. Thanks for reminding me. I do like Image Plus, actually. I think that they are going to be in a really good place once I complete that current development. And just like with when you're investing in expanding in infrastructure, you will have increased costs. It's just like with RPL when they were building the gas stations. And so I do like Image Plus. Thank you. So that's number 4. Image Plus is number 4. I need one more before I go, because I do want to say 5. But that is interesting. I never saw that. Never saw that. So why surprised, Tamaris? All respects to Khalida, but taking stock doesn't ask all the questions from the chat. Well, I mean, in fairness to taking stock, they have hundreds of people on at that time. But I understand what you're saying in terms of being able to ask. So that's one of the things I think we're able to do just based on how the format of the interview. With taking stock, the interview is about half of the show, right? So let's say about 30 minutes. Sometimes I've seen interviews goes up to like 45 minutes. But the questions are asked in advance, meaning they have probably a set of questions that they want to get in. But I think just based on the sheer number of persons, right? Because there are 66 persons here on taking stock. They're like 200, 300. It's going to be hard to answer all the questions, but I do understand what you're saying in the sense that as an audience member, you want to feel like questions from the chat are prioritized. So I do take your point there. I think it's something that they try to do as best as they can, but it's not all the time the guests are confirmed early enough either. So I think they try to just prepare questions in advance just in case they don't get enough from the chat. Like, I don't know, I'm just speculating here. But I get what you're saying. Yeah, the more sellers and buyers is interesting to see. Really want to buy into 1GS, but then do a poor job at communicating vision, goals, and objectives for the company. I don't think I would agree with the poor job in communicating vision, goals, and objectives. I think those are clear for me. I think it's more the ongoing communication that, because I mean, this is a perfect example of when I say there's bias. I do think, for example, RPL, Image Plus, Dollar Financial, they communicate. And it's not a coincidence, I think, that these are 3 companies that we work with. Every quarter, there's an earnings call by all 3 companies. And so we see just consistent communication. Now, there are other things that will impact how the stock price goes, but you're never lacking for information from any of those 3 companies, which I really appreciate as an investor. New listings not so attractive anymore. Take Atlantic. That's one example, though. That's one listing. I wouldn't say it's not attractive. It has to be the right offer. Just because something is for sale doesn't mean that somebody will buy it. So, yeah. So Sean is asking, what's your understanding of their vision and goals for 1GS you're referring to? I mean, they're building a creative. Is creative the right term? They're building out their agency model, right? Especially with the partnership with DRT, they are expanding their portfolio of the services that they're able to provide for clients. I think from a strategic perspective, DRT fits into that. They are building out their services, right? They said that last year. They showed you, especially for the AGM, I think there was a particular slide that I saw that spoke to how they're building out their services. I think if you watch the AGM from last year, you'll have that clarity. I will say, whenever they communicate, they try their best to communicate clearly. So I think if you're not remembering it, which is fair since you haven't heard from them in so long, but if you watch the AGM, if you watch even the interviews or earnings calls that they did before that, that is something that they constantly try to communicate. And I follow them on social media as well. So in my mind, I have them as a creative agency building out their services, expanding in the area of SEO, they recently started to develop or work on services that are at a lower price point to attract a wider range of clients. That was something that they mentioned last year coming out of the AGM. And then with the recent acquisition of DRT, they're going to be building out that side, right? DRT did a couple of things actually. So they're able to integrate that into the portfolio, and they were able to pay for it with existing cash, so they didn't have to take on debt. So that's what I would say. So I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with the approach and vision. Let me see, audited financials for the year. I don't remember the numbers. I did that equity report summary as well. Okay. I'm coming up to an hour. Gotta stop the stream at an hour. You know, I'm always looking at profitability, right? That's where I start. So cost of sales, I need to check out that percentage. Admin expensive would have gone up, but they did say that they were investing in. I think one of the things I said coming out of shortly after the IPO that they're gonna be investing in a dedicated sales team. So admin costs going up is not surprising. But revenues being almost 100 million less is, I don't know if that's mainly the SEO side. That's the part that I would want to have context on, right? Don't know if it's, did they put it on the summer report? No. Operating profits, other expenses. So I mean, this is almost 50% dip in profits, but I think whatever would have happened last year, because we know the changes in terms of SEO, how that works, and the challenges there might have had an impact, but $100 million impact or 25% of revenues is a big deal. And this is certainly not. So one of the things I've always said, and that I'll stand by here, junior market companies are supposed to be in growth mode. Now, they did do a second acquisition here in terms of they had the high voltage acquisition, then they had the DRT acquisition. So growing by acquisition is certainly a good sign, but I'd love to understand what exactly went into that 25% decrease in revenues there. Is it a loss of customers? Is it a decrease in services? That would be what I'd want to understand. And 34, yeah. So I guess I'll see what Q1 2025 looks like. This is for FY20. Yeah, so I'd love to see what the Q1 looks like for them. See how that goes. All right. RPL doesn't hold back in terms of the info that they give. The director need to drop a little dividend. No. But I say no to the dividend, meaning I still, well, I can't say anything. I can't say anything. I try to keep track. I don't know if using their acquisition as a main vehicle of growth or just internal growth. It seems like they're taking a more laid back approach instead of being aggressive. No, man, acquisitions take time. Acquisitions take a lot of due diligence. So it's almost like you're building out a company. So it's like you're adding rooms before you can invite guests to use the room if you're doing an Airbnb, right? But I wouldn't say it's laid back. I don't get that impression at all. The SEO causing drop due to, yeah, it doesn't for me either, because the SEO business should still be there. Oh, okay, I'll check that out. Annual report. I mean, I know some clients would be on contract, and so, well, yeah, that last annual report was from April last year. Yes, Tavares. Yeah. Nor I don't think it would be a good idea for them to anyway. RPL should not pay a dividend. That's my opinion. I can't say anything else like to that effect, right? But Q1 should be great for them. I'm very happy for them and the growth, and it's gonna be, I think, very good for them. Let me see this. Oh, we did the earnings call. Yeah, so Q1 I think is coming out 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I'll see. Well, Renee will be hosting that earnings call. Very, very happy to see the growth for RPL. All right, I'll take one final question, and then I'll wrap it there. Yeah, I'm just checking my messages to see if anybody is messaging me. By the way, everyone, tell me if I look different to you, because I'm trying a new PC and the setup is a little different. This is the first time I've really gone all out to treat myself for a computer. So I must say the stream was very fluid for me, meaning I didn't feel any lag on my side, because usually there's some lag when I'm doing the stream. Very happy with it. And so just let me know if I look different or sound different. I did not use the yeah, I think everything should still be the same, but let me know if you noticed a difference. Sean is asking me, am I selling Dolphin Cove? Sean, I can't answer this question. I can't answer this question. I shared my thesis, and if you understand how important a thesis is to me, it shapes what I do and how I invest, then you already know the answer to that. All right. So hopefully that helps. So listen to the first half of the video, and that would tell you what my decision is. All right, let me see if there's anybody in the community asking a question. Okay, no. And I must say, so I have two minutes left. Thank you to everyone who attended our conference. It was amazing. It came off great. Thanks to all the sponsors, the speakers, the attendees, those who joined online, those who joined in person. Amazing. We're already planning 2026. We never thought that it would be received this well. Even though we knew the work that we were putting into it, but it's amazing how that went. So we are going to be, sharing the details for 2026 very soon, and we're already planning to have our, well, I won't share the details yet, but we have things planned. It's going to be great. It was awesome. I wish I could. Can I show? I did my first presentation as well as a speaker at a conference, which was shocking to me. That it was my first time doing that. When I thought, because I remember being invited to JMMB's Elevate back in, I think, 2022, 2023, but I was like a moderator. I wasn't really somebody who was invited to speak. I did do an event with Sagicor last year for their pension funds event, but I wasn't like a speaker. I was on a panel. So this was my first time speaking only by myself to an audience. I thought it was pretty cool. And I'm like, if I'm hosting the conference, why not give myself a speaking slot? So I was very nervous about it, but persons said it was good. And I spoke about, how to make your your business investment ready, right? How to really benefit from it in terms of extracting profits, building your business into an asset, and yeah, it went great. All right, so I'm gonna leave it here, guys. But remember, community group tomorrow. We're having our monthly call. It's gonna be maybe an hour or two long. Come with your questions. You know, we answer everything openly there. Thanks, Julian. It's a lot of literally blood, sweat, and tears, right? We cried. We toiled, and it was all worth it, right? To God be the glory for how well it went. And yeah, well, diplomat, I'm about to exit, so you are late for sure. But congratulations to everybody who received their dividends today. Now, I did receive about half of what I was expecting. I have not seen the rest yet. I'm not freaking out because I have Trans Jamaica in about 5 different accounts. So I'm expecting 5 different debits to my account and 1 check. I still have one of them that the dividend mandate is not filled out for. And my wife has her dividend payment to get as well. My son, my sisters, like a lot of people are sharing the joys of their dividend. Somebody from the challenge community messaged me today and said she got her first dividend check, and it was a check for, well, I don't know if she'd want me to share the amount, but it was a sizable check, and so she was happy about that. So TH price, I get push. What's happening next week? Congrats on the conference. Yeah, man, thank you so much for all the support. Listen, I think I've shared my thesis on Trans Jamaica well. It's there already, so I'll leave it there for now. All right, everyone, take care. Please reinvest your dividends. Reinvest your dividends, please. Reinvest your dividends. Reinvest your dividends. Reinvest your dividends. I've said it 3 times. Please do that. Don't splurge. All right. Take care, everyone.
Learning is the key to successful investing. And who doesn't want to invest in some way?
Here at L.E.A.R.N. Grow Invest, we focus on financial education, all with the aim of sharing our knowledge on personal finance, investing, and building wealth. We do this on the foundation of our faith in God.
If a more holistic approach is what you need, check out our Grow Faith-based financial coaching program.
Find out more about us at learngrowinvestclub.com
and follow us on all social media platforms at Learn, Grow, Invest.